Thank you again, everyone, for coming this evening to join us in the launch of our new magazine, The African Heritage, Sankofa. Most of you probably have been to Ghana, and you know the word Sankofa means take back what you've left behind or what you've dropped. As African people, we've left a lot behind, not because we chose to, but because things were taken away from us. So much has been taken away from us that we have become disorganized, um, and it looks like we are lost. We don't know where to turn. We don't know our history, our culture, our identity. We've lost all that because that was all those were deliberately destroyed. And it's like a journey. If you find yourself somewhere and you don't know how you got there, obviously you won't know how to go forward. You won't know where to go. And so for us to be able to go forward, we need to know where we came from. We need to go back to our history and the things that helped our ancestors to get to the point where, as Sister Cameron said, they were able to organize, move throughout the continent, and outside the continent to populate the whole world. A period of over 200,000 years, they were organized. So if we are going to be able to move forward from the position where we find African people, at the bottom of every social stratification, whether it's economic, whether it's health, we need to regroup and find ourselves. So this is what Sankofa is going to try to do. I'll talk about the picture on the cover later. It seems to be generating some controversy and some discussion. Um, the main topics of the magazine is Africa at a glance, miseducation, deception of African people, Africa, the origin of humanity. Contrary to what you've been told, Africa is the origin of humanity. And then we'll go into the first things that so far we can discuss that African people developed, originated. And then we'll talk about Mother Ethiopia and one topic that you will find interesting, the Republic of Africa. It doesn't exist, but we hope it will come into existence. What are the goals of Sankofa? The Sankofa, our African Heritage publication, has been developed to address all the issues that affect the global African family that we are most often afraid to discuss. African people are in a state of disrepair worldwide. Wherever African people are, they are suffering. They are poor in health and in their pockets. Joblessness is very high among all African people. But what do? We point fingers at a lot of culprits who are responsible for our situation. And we've been doing this for 500 years. Of course, attempts have been made in the past with varying degrees of our success and then failures. But it doesn't look like we are making any progress at all. But it seems that this is the time that we have to do something. Our generation has to do something. The generation before us, they tried. They brought us somewhere, and we can point to the last page of the magazine will show us some of what our dynamic ancestors did to bring us to where we are today. Our condition remains unchanged. So Sankofa's goal is to take us back into our history, take us back from where we started, because life started in Africa, at least 200,000 years where we became the Homo sapiens. And so how did they evolve and develop all the civilizations and the other things that brought us here for the whole world? We have to learn all of that so that we can be proud as a people that, yes, we have accomplished something. And there's a reason for that. So we'll cover African history that is relevant to Africans. So we recommend all African people to get a copy of the magazine and use it to educate ourselves. They will not educate us. One of the things I envision the magazine to be used is at home. You get the family together, everybody has a copy, read the paragraphs and discuss it. And do even further research based on what you find in the magazine. Couples can do it together, boyfriend, girlfriends. This will, I believe, will build the family unity. So here are several topics that we intend to cover. The very first one, African identity. Who is African and who belongs to Africa? When we look at the continent, we see pieces of it has been taken by other people who don't belong. And they say the Africans. They took it by the sword or by the gun. And they claim the Africans. So we'll discuss that. Who is African? And even among ourselves, there seems to be some confusion. Um, and so we'll want to discuss that in the article. Establishing the origin of man and woman in Africa 200,000 years ago by science, not religion. Religion doesn't do that for us. And we'll talk about the early forms of humans, the evolution of humans in Africa, and then the different civilizations they've developed. And we'll prove and show to African people by science how all humanity started in Africa by DNA, Y chromosome, mitochondrial DNA, Y chromosome, the history of Kemet, and all of that. Anthropology, paleontology. We'll go through the civilizations African people developed on the continent, not just Kemet, but other areas of Africa too. How these civilizations fell, they were conquered, and over time, how they recovered and continued on, and how, of course, especially with Kemet, it went downhill, and we've never recovered the Kemetic civilization. We'll go through that because there are lessons that we can learn from that history. Of course, we'll talk about the nightmare, Africa's nightmare that most scholars avoid, the conquest of Africa by the Arabs. We'll bravely talk about that in the magazine and show that, yes, these people are occupying our land, squatters, and as African people, we'll do something about it. How chattel slavery was developed, started with the Arabs, and then the Europeans joined in. And then we'll talk about the religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, because this is where we get our education from. They've pumped a lot of stuff in our heads, and we think this is real history. So we discuss that and compare it with science and reality, so that we can get a good understanding of what our history is. One of the things is we have all become complacent. It looks like we have accepted our lot in life, being at the bottom of the barrel. Everybody works on us. We look at our continent has been taken over for more than 500 years. These Europeans have sucked out a lot from Africa. Let me tell you one story. The first diamond nugget that was discovered at the riverbank. Somebody was just walking, saw the nugget, picked it up. It looks like a nice stone. Didn't know what it was. It'd been there for a long time. Showed it to Cecil Rhodes. Ah, this is diamond. Got people around in that village to go back there and collect these stones. The diamonds. That's how the diamond trade started in Africa. And then Cecil Rhodes, a British guy, sold it after a long period of time to the Jewish company. Now, to get the diamonds, they have to go deep in the mine, about a mile deep, to get it. And it's a lot of money that has been stolen from us. If we continue to be complacent and do nothing, there will be nothing left. We'll have nothing for our children. So we'll talk about all of that, the economic impact. We'll talk about how African people can recover, and it's going to be by revolution. The revolution doesn't have to be by guns. No, it can be a revolution of the mind, but we have to condition our mind to be soldiers of that revolution so we can conquer. We'll talk about how we reestablish our culture, our identity, and of course, learn our history and the culture that held our ancestors together so they were able to stay together and then develop the civilizations that we have inherited. One of the key things is the solution for our problems, that one, um, taking back our continent, what we can do, the, 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 um, the work that needs to be done so that we can take it back, develop infrastructure, businesses, industries to help our people. We don't need to be here. We have a continent that we can develop so that we can all enjoy better than what they are proposing over here. One of the things that we will discuss is white supremacy. In the next few issues, we're going to talk about white supremacy, what it is, and anyway, we'll go back into more detail on that. This is the continent of Africa as it exists now. As we said, there are 55 different countries, and Africans didn't decide to cut it up like that. It was done by the Europeans. It was done by the Europeans to stop them from fighting each other since when they went there to scramble and partition it so they can exploit us. And the exploitation has been going on for at least 130 years. This is what the mess they left us. This mess is creating lots of problems for us. We are fighting and killing each other because they are providing the guns. And in the meantime, they are sucking out the richness of the continent. The beautiful flags of the different continents, very colorful, but they are useless. There's no power behind them. The magazine shows us what our population now is, about 1.2 billion people on the continent now. Actually, we are the third. It's not second anymore. We are the third. We have China, India, and then all of Africa. So there's not a lot of people. It's a huge continent, but sparsely populated. And there are some facts about Africa, because most people don't know anything about Africa. We don't know much about Africa. This introduces us to our continent. Our continent. And this is the mess they created with all these 57 different countries, the mess they created. And so we are not able to move from one area to another, from one country to another. You need a visa to cross the border. Whereas before, we could travel from West Africa all the way to the east and to the south without any papers. Now they've created this political structure where we need to we need documentation to, okay. This shows you the economic benefits to them. The 10 uh, the top 10 countries in their GDP, they produce, I added it up, about $76 trillion. The GDP is what the country produces, the amount, and they divide it by the population of the people, gross domestic product. These 10 countries produce about $76 trillion. And based on that, you can determine their economic well-being. Nigeria is the only country in Africa that is now in the billion, 1 billion. They just got to that number, 1 billion, not long ago, followed by South Africa. The rest of them, they don't, a whole lot of them don't even show on this scale. That means they are poor, very, very poor. Regardless of what people tell you, Africa is, developing and let's go get ours. Africa is still a very poor continent with the richest resources. Look at this. Every part of the continent has natural resources. In the north, you have oil, you have gold, you have zinc, you have iron. In the west, you have same things, iron, gold, cobalt, copper. all of that. Same thing in the um, West Central Africa. And then in the East, you have minerals. And in the South, the same thing. So Africa is still the richest continent. Brothers and sisters, it is our continent. The resources of of Africa is what is being used by these countries to develop. They all depend on Africa. And so they live well, they are rich. So, again, as we help African people to get connected to the continent, these are some of the facts that we like to show. Africa has all these rivers. Of course, with rivers, we have water. Well, what can we learn? Um, our ancestors in Kemet developed canal systems. So, down in this area, I will show in another screen, they were able to produce a lot of food to feed themselves and also to feed the rest of the world. If you are someone who has read the Bible, remember somebody named Abraham came to Egypt for food. His children, Jacob and his children and all that, they were not the only ones. Whenever there was food shortages, they always went to Kemet. So how were they able to produce so much food? Today, we have starvation on the continent. NPR reported, I believe, a day or yesterday or a day before, that people in Kenya, there's starvation in Kenya, and it's going to get worse. Kenya is near the um, White Nile, and yet there's starvation. What can we learn to stop this? These are some facts about Africa that you may find interesting as you read your copy of the magazine. The deepest lake, Lake Tanganyika, the longest river being the Nile, um, Lake Malawi, the deserts, and all of that. So we want to get people familiar with their continent. And then there are different tribal groups. I hate the word tribe because it seems to denote they are separate, distinct people. We are not. We are family groups. We are family groups. And we used to be connected to each other, intermarry within the family groups. And then with the advent of the Europeans, they have created this notion we are different tribes, different people, and they've encouraged us to fight against one another for their benefit. So we want to reestablish the fact that we are not tribes, just as they are not tribes in Europe. We are not tribes, we are family groups. And so African people should connect to each other as families. There are about 1,500 family groups by language. And so we'll introduce the different, as we go from country to country, we'll introduce the different family groups and see how we are connected. One of the things that is hurting Africa is this thing called Judeo-Christian Islamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, particularly Islam and Christianity. Half of Africa Africa is divided by two. Half is Islam, and the other half is Christianity. As we speak, there's a war going on in Central African Republic. A lot of atrocities are being committed. They're killing one another. The Muslims and the Christians have been fighting for some time. Nigeria is going through the same thing. You've heard of Boko Haram. Nigeria, there's an article that I read the other day that Nigeria has to be careful before these religions, Christianity and Islam, destroy the country. Outside of the continent, we have, especially in this country, we have religion playing a big part in our lives. You have Catholics, and then all kinds of denominations within the Protestant movement. This has become our identity. You meet an African, the first thing he's going to ask you is, what religion do you belong to, or what church do you go to? We are not Africans anymore because these people have de-Africanized us. One of the things, and so we'll talk about the influence of religion. And if we are honest about it, we are honest with ourselves, we'll come to realize that we need to let these religions that promote white supremacy go. so that we can appreciate who we are. We're going to be very forceful on that. And then we introduce African people, all African people, to other African people in other parts of the world. Here's a family group, Africans who are in India. Most people don't know that we have family members in India. And then on this side of the world, Nicaragua, Africans who look like us, Honduras, Panama, Costa Rica, um, Mexico, El Salvador. No, this is Salvador, Brazil. Salvador, Brazil, and also Bahia. About 12 million Africans were shipped from Africa to northern Brazil. I am very proud of them because they continue to practice their indigenous culture. Whereas Africa, the continent, has lost their culture, Brazilian Africans practice their culture and they are very proud of it. As a matter of fact, I'm talking to a sister there who teaches African history, and I sent her a copy of the magazine. She wants to translate it into Portuguese so she can distribute it over there. And she also wants to write articles for the magazine here so that we can share the experience of what the Africans over there have gone through in the past and what they're going through now. So, and then of course, we'll have other writers from different countries in South America write their experiences. In that way, we can connect as one family. We talked about the miseducation of the Africans. It has been deliberate. Um, Let me show you some of the things that prominent historians, prominent people have said about African people. Arnold Toynbee, this is what he said. When we classify mankind by color, the only one of the primary races which has not made any creative contribution to any of our 21 civilizations is the black race. We haven't done anything. We are just, I guess, low-lifers, just enjoying what others have done. Hugh Trevor Roper is an American historian. He was actually an Oxford professor. This is what he said. Perhaps in the future there will be some African history to teach. At the present, there is none, or very little. There is only the history of Europeans in Africa. The rest is largely darkness, like the history of pre-European and pre-Columbian America. He says we don't have any history. Our history is only incidental to European um, conquest or invasion of Africa. And then this guy, he's a sir, very respected gentleman, Richard Francis Burton. He was an anthropologist. He studied, went to West Africa and different places exploring. This is what he said about us. The study of the Negro is the study of man's rudimentary mind. He would appear rather a degeneracy from the civilized man, that is the Caucasian, than a savage rising to the first step, were it not for his total incapacity for improvement. We have a rudimentary mind, can't comprehend anything, can't develop anything. But it seems like we are degenerate from civilized Caucasian. And we don't have the capacity to improve. John Burgess was supposed to be a scholar on African people. Black skin means membership in a race of men which has never created any civilization, a civilization of any kind. There is something natural in the subordination of an inferior race, even to the point of enslavement of the inferior race. This is justification for slavery. The Africans are nothing, and so it's okay for them to be enslaved. And that enslavement enslaved more than 200 million African people. We are suffering from this. We still have that syndrome, post-slavery syndrome. We all suffer from it and fear of it. Benjamin Franklin says, let me go to the next one. Thomas Jefferson, the one who was sleeping with what's her name? Remember? She had her children by Sally, nobody remembers, the black Hemming. This is what he said. I advanced it therefore as a suspicion only that the blacks, whether originally a distinct race or made distinct by time or circumstance, are inferior to the whites in the endowments of both body and mind. Well, you should come up and see our sons and daughters in all these sports activities. Look at a football game, it's all black, strong black men. And of course, in the sciences, I'll show you a picture. Yeah, we have strong minded men and women. Abraham Lincoln claimed to have freed the slaves. He said, there is a physical difference between the white and black races, which I believe will forever forbid the two races living together. While they do remain together, there must be the position of superior and inferior. And as much as any man, I am in favor of having the superior position assigned to the white race. This is white supremacy, and this is what they've been promoting. So in academia, this thought persists. There was a gentleman by the name of Professor M.D.W. Jeffries. He was an anthropologist discussing the bones that they found in different places. He didn't believe Africans were part of it. Let me get to some specific ones here. Swanscombe skull found in Great Britain is dated 250,000 years. It says it's our stock, not Negro. The skeletal remains dug by Leakeys in East Africa are us, not Negro. Boskop man found in the Cape Verde, which is the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa, is dated 50,000 years and falls into our group, Caucasian, not that of the Negro. There are no Negro skulls of any in antiquity, the oldest known about 6,000 BC. So as far as he's concerned, we don't have any skeletons, any bones that can be identified as African or black. It will show up only 6,000 years ago, and all of Africa was white people. That's a professor at Oxford University, and this is what he's been teaching his students. So, and if students happen to be Africans, that is what they learned. And when you compound it with Christianity, the African mind is gone. This is what he's accepting. There have been efforts to promote African history. We remember Dr. Carter G. Woodson started the Negro History Week, and then it has developed into Black History Month. Unfortunately, Black History Month has been hijacked by the churches, and all they promote is the dream of one man, Dr. Martin Luther King, because he was a churchman, he was a minister. So that's all they promote. They don't make any effort to go into history of African people here in this country, in Mexico, in Cuba. No, they don't talk about that. But we are one people. We've all suffered the same fate of slavery. And so all that history must be taught too, as part of our collective history. Our history covers more than 800,000 years. As a matter of fact, the DVD that Sister Thelma was on was developed showing the origin of life, atheism, evolution, creationism, and African belief systems. Life started in Africa 3.8 billion years ago, not in Europe. Of course, the book, We Are All Africans, it deals with the Judeo-Christian Islamic religions and what they've done, not just by indoctrination and teaching us the wrong stuff, but they played a role also in slavery, and all that will be covered. Every church will be covered, from the Catholic Church to the last one, and the racism, the Jehovah's Witnesses, and the Seventh-day Adventists. All of them are racist organizations promoting white supremacy. We will cover this in Sankofa magazine, every one of them. As mentioned, the churches played a big role in dehumanizing Africans, devaluing our cultures, and our spirituality, and all of that. So we'll cover every one of them, and they will go into their holy books, so-called holy books. I call them the dirtiest books ever written: the Talmud, the Bible, and the Quran. And we'll discourage every African from reading them. Um, because of what they've done to us, we are fragmented. We are divided over so many lines, ideological. Even our skin color is an issue. You have blacks against light skin, and light skin against blacks, and middle skin, and all kinds of stuff. And of course, you go on the continent, we have tribe divides us, and we fight over tribes. Even right now, I read something the other day in Cameroon. Cameroon is divided into two. You have Francophone Cameroon and Anglophone Cameroon. And the government promotes French as a language. All their documentation is in French. And the ones who speak English says, we want to read something in English too. So, and there's fighting over white man's language. That is insanity. And of course, political systems that they imposed on Africa, left on Africans after the Africans gained independence. Now Africans are exploiting that, using that as a tool to kill different members of other tribes. We had that in the Luo and Kikuyu in Kenya. Of course, we had the same thing in Nigeria. Um, the Igbos and the rest of Nigeria, primarily the Yorubas. I was surprised when I attended a meeting with some Nigerian friends, and I thought that war was over and done, and they've come together. They are still fighting that war mentally, and people are still agitating that the Biafra should secede from Nigeria. And of course, there's a reason. Biafra, just a little history, was supported by France. During that war, France supported Biafra. France has always wanted to divide Nigeria because they thought the British had Nigeria as too big a country for the British, and they wanted a piece of it. And so they continue to agitate for Africans to kill one another. The Sankofa magazine will bring all these things out. Um, what we're going through is primarily motivated by white supremacy. White people want to continue dominating African people wherever we are. And so they use all kinds of tools to threaten us, to, of course, kill them savagely. Um, the KKK is just one aspect of it. And you've got police departments and all of that, some bad apples in there, bad people in there. They feel they have the gun and so they can kill. These are all victims of young men who have been killed. And the United States is not the only country where this is going on. Other countries are suffering the same thing. And unfortunately, our leaders have no vision, they are powerless, and all they do is help us to organize, walk, sing, march, and pray to some unknown gods who don't speak our language. So they don't understand us, they don't listen to us. One of the things we are going to focus on, again, is the biblical indoctrination. This section here talks about Bible chronology. It's very, very important for us to understand this. The Bible simply says, man, everything has been on this planet only during the past 6,000 years. Nothing existed before 6,000 years ago. As a matter of fact, somebody went in using the chronology of the Bible. Adam begat um, Cain and Abel, and then Cain killed Abel, and then Seth, and Seth begat this and begat. If you add up all the years these begats people lived, you come to about 6,000. Somebody decided, Bishop Amak decided to actually do the math. He figured out the creation day by God, his God, was Sunday, 23rd October, the year 4004 BC. I hear somebody chuckling. That was his creation day, and that was supposed to be accepted by everybody. And then look at this. I just noticed this morning when I was looking at this. Adam and Eve were driven from the paradise on Monday, 10th November, 4004 BC. So God created them on the 20th, actually started creation on the 23rd of October and kicked them out of the Garden of Eden on the 10th. That's barely 3 weeks. And we are supposed to believe this. And then the Noah's flood also ended May 5th, 2348 BC. So the flood, according to them, took place about 2000 BC. I want you to remember these numbers. Um, this is the kind of foolishness that has been preached and promoted in the churches. So the Sankofa magazine is going to go in and dissect this and show African people why it is craziness and foolishness for us to believe this story. And we'll show you why. Now, if you take the 4004 BC as the creation year and to our time, you get 6,000 years. If all life on the planet has been here only 6,000 years, then my brothers and sisters, then the dinosaurs never lived. Because according to what anthropologists and paleontologists show us, the sauropods lived about 65 million years ago. Triceratops between 72 to 65 million years ago. T-Rex, which all kids love, lived about between 85 and 65 million years ago. And Allosaurus, 154 to 144 million years ago. And this one, Pletosaurus, 222 to 219 million years ago. The bones are in museums. Anthropologists and paleontologists are still digging the bones of these creatures, and they are being tested. So how can we accept what the Bible teaches us as truth? It's not. But this is what they have put in our heads. So we will explore all this. The worst of all, they have destroyed our identity. This is the tree they show us. That there was an Adam, there was Noah, he had 3 kids, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and we are descendants of Ham. And they say Ham was cursed. The curse is what was used to justify slavery and the genocide of African people. So we want to expose this fallacy, foolishness, and the genocide they've committed against us. We have a class here every Friday. For those of you who are interested, we cover all these subjects. This is a new book that is coming out. 13 things they will never teach you about the Messiah. The Messiah is a big thing between March, April, and May, Easter, and of course, the Jews celebrate Peshawa or Passover. Uh, it's a big thing in Christianity. It's the basis of Christianity, as a matter of fact, also the basis of Judaism and Islam too. But there's some things they don't tell us. These are some of the martyrs who have tried to make a difference in African people's lives. The top here, Steve Biko in South Africa, they killed him, they tortured him to death. Nelson Mandela was in prison for, I believe, 23 years, 23 or 26 years, 23 years. And Gaddafi was recently killed for a reason that they don't tell you. Hillary Clinton led that war to kill him. We will show people why she did that with David Cameron and the French Prime Minister at the time, Sarkozy. And of course, we have had people who have stood up to white supremacy. We have the Black Panther movement here. In all these struggles, we have been successful in some part, and some we are still fighting the war. Lessons of genocide. We start with the Arab slavery of African people for a long period of 1400 years. They came, they captured, they tortured, and killed a lot of Africans. Mecca was a city where the slaves were sold. So they tell you Mecca is a holy city. It is one of the dirtiest cities on the planet. A lot of African blood was shed there. We'll talk about them because most of our scholars are afraid to talk about the Arabs and African people. And we'll also talk about the trans-Saharan Africa, Atlantic slave trade that killed a lot of people. Of course, the Muslims were involved, Jews were involved. We don't want to let them escape the genocide they committed or they got involved in. The sad part is most of our people are ignorant of this. And so we want to bring all this information to our people, especially the young ones. And what they taught us about Africans haven't accomplished anything and we came from white people, well, we're going to refute that by science, not religion. Here are some a picture of Louis Leakey. They found Lucy. Um, Her bones had been dated to be about 2.3 million years. It is called in the Ethiopian language, I'm not sure if it's Amhara or what, but the name they prefer is Dinknesh. She was found to be about 2.3 million years old. So there was life in Africa long millions of years before their God created anything, if they did, right? And then another finding is what they call Adipithecus. They found these bones over here, and they assembled all that, and they came up with what Adipithecus would have looked like. Adipithecus lived about 5.8 million years ago in Africa. There was life in Africa. And this is Lucy, the bones they found of Lucy. They collected them, assembled them, and this is what it looked like. Okay. So we'll use anthropology and paleontology to prove that African people are the oldest people on Earth. And then we'll go into mitochondrial DNA. Mitochondrial DNA is passed from female to female, mother to daughter, actually to all of us. But men cannot pass on mitochondrial DNA because it is too big to be in the cell. So men don't pass mitochondrial DNA to their children, but women do to all of us, male and female. That DNA can be traced back as to its origin or to the oldest. And it was found that 80,000 years ago, the woman who lived in Africa, East Africa, passed on her genes to us. All of us, whites and blacks and red, and all of us carry that African woman's mitochondrial DNA. This is the human migration from Africa. Everything started here scientifically. Everything started in Africa, not in the Middle East, in Garden of Eden in Iraq. It cannot be substantiated by any fact, by science or uh, um, common logic. But science proves that everybody living today carries African genes. The fourth witness is our color. As we migrated from um, African people migrated from the equator, the skin got lighter and lighter, and that's how we ended up with white people. So we did not descend from them; they descended from us. And then the fifth is the Y chromosome. Just like the mitochondrial DNA, it has been traced to an African male who lived in Africa about 80,000 years ago. Scholars like Dr. Spencer Wells and Sheikh Anta Diop, who's from Senegal, and Dr. Luca Cavallis Forger. He used to teach at UC Berkeley. They've written books, very heavy scientific books that show that yes, everything traces back to Africa. And of course, the different methods, how they date all these things, is by radiometric dating. The seventh witness that proves that Africans were here before these Europeans came is the history of Kemet, or what they call now Egypt. It used to be called Kemet. This is the Kemetic Empire. They are the ones who started civilization as we know it. And I'll show you some of the things that were developed in Kemet. We can learn from them. These imposing structures, the pyramids, of course, we know that. It's artifacts. It was in Kemet where they decided, okay, we'll make figurines, we'll make portraits of, something that shows our people. And of course, men have always been fascinated with women's body. So what they will find are, beautiful carvings, uh, figurines of women. And look at the dates they attribute to these between 4000 and 3600 BC. If it is 4000 BC and we are in 2000 CE, that adds up to about 6,000 years. So before the Argos decided to create a human being in Iraq, our ancestors were making figurines of women. We already knew what a woman looked like. The Argos didn't know what a woman looked like, so when he decided to create a woman, he said, Adam, lie down, let me take a rib from you and make something, and came up with a woman. But our people knew what women looked like. More figurines. We have these pyramids that are older than what is in Kemet or in Egypt. So they started building these a long time before the ones in Kemet. This shows the civilizations or groups of people who live together in towns and cities, and they determine how they will live together in peace. All that was in ancient times. They developed a military organization because there were always invaders coming in um, from the east and also from Europe. And so they developed a way of defending themselves. So they had military. They developed government structure with different levels of society, people in the society, the pharaohs, the officials, the soldiers, the scribes, the merchants, everybody having something, a function to perform in the empire. Here's a king, Ramses II. You look at his lips; he's got African lips, and his nose, the same thing, African nose. He was an African. Ramses II is what the Bible claims enslaved the Israelites. That's a lie, a completely bogus, unsubstantiated lie. The time of Ramses preceded the formation of the people of Israel. Ramses did no such thing. As a matter of fact, there were no such mass slaves in Kemet. No slaves were used to build the pyramids. The story in the Bible is a lie. And then we are some of the very first king of Upper and Lower Egypt, one who united the two kingdoms, Nama. And we'll talk about Nama and why he determined to unite the two kingdoms. Of course, the picture on the cover of the magazine is Queen Nefertiti, who was the wife of King Akhenaten. She was born in 1370 BC and died around 1330 BC. Now, I don't show this on the cover of the magazine because sorry, okay. Um, this picture, this is a picture of, what do you call it? It's not a statue, um, a bust that was taken from the cave, not the cave, the tomb of where Nefertiti was buried. This is what was discovered there, at least one of the busts that were found. There is a discussion on why I chose to use, let me go back to, where is it? Okay, let's go over here. Okay. Um, oops. Okay. People are saying she looks like a white woman. But let me show you this other one. The, Here is the original bust that was found in the tomb. The tomb is about 4,000 years. This is about 4,000 years old. If you look here, there are a lot of scratches. the top layer is kind of brown, and the layer or the base is kind of white. All the scratches show that to be white. Somebody said that originally it was black, and somebody painted it recently to be brown to show her as an European. I disagreed, because if it had been painted, you will not see the bottom layer, the base, showing white all over. Okay, the white we are seeing are just places that were scratched, and you see also the nose is broken. I mean, the ear is broken on both sides, whether it was deliberate or not. And even here, you see somebody deliberately scratching it out. Okay. Here's another one. I think it is Nefertiti um, that they found, but whether original color was black or not, I don't know. I think it's metal, but it shows there to be very, very black. Um, and this shows that this is an original that was removed from the tomb. Okay. All right. So why did I choose to use that picture instead of the people are saying you should have used a darker Nefertiti? Well, when we started, we just went online, we're looking for Nefertiti. And this is the clearest picture that we found that is appropriate for the cover of a magazine. This wasn't intentional to use a white woman's picture. We are not crazy to use a white woman to teach African spirituality. So that is the story behind it. And I decided anybody who sees this knows this is Nefertiti from Kemet. It's not a white woman from Egypt, from Europe or anywhere else. So that's if you hear anything about it, that is the story behind it. Okay, so continue on. We'll go through all of that and some of the things that African people discovered in Kemet. Well, law and order. And you see the king with the two Ankh signs, meaning life. He had the power of life over the citizens. So everybody had to act right. And of course, they practiced Ma'at, the principles of good living, um, truth, honesty, order, justice. So we'll go through what all those things represent. And of course, our African ancestors started belief in the afterlife, which is spirituality, what happens to a person after death. They developed the system of gods, where people become responsible to a higher power or higher powers, so they don't go, acting crazy. Pharmacology was developed first in Kemet by a man called Imhotep. Well, in reality, Imhotep learned from his ancestors how different uh, plants, shrubs could produce some chemicals to heal, and he uh, perfected that. So, medicine was first, the practice of medicine, pharmacology, was first in Egypt or Kemet. Um, how to perform surgery, Imhotep again left us the tools he used to perform surgery. These are the tools that are on the walls of a Kemet. So medicine and pharmacology and surgery and all of that were not developed by the um, the Greeks. All this was first done in Africa. And of course, mathematics. Anybody to be able to build a pyramid, the side of which is a triangle, you have to know mathematics. So you can know the tangents, the tangents, sine, cosine, all these come into play to be able to build a pyramid and a big structure like that, and all the angles meet at an apex. You have to know what you are doing. So they developed the science of mathematics. And of course, architecture, look at these what do you call, pillars. Compare the height of that pillar to the height of the people. I mean, these are massive structures, and they were able to draw pictures on these things. I just don't know what tools they use to be able to do this. This is a huge temple, King Hatshepsut temple, carved in the wall. And they say if you go inside, you'll be amazed what you'll find inside. And they were able to do that. This is all to show that we are not people who haven't contributed anything to civilization. We contributed, we built civilization, and we need to know that and be proud of it. Writing was not started in Mesopotamia, it was in Africa. It's the hieroglyphs prove that, and these are some of the tools they used. So I like this one here. When I go to this, I never thought of it. When you go into school and they teach you the um, people who lived in Paleolithic times, the Stone Age times, because you've got Bible teachings or doctrines in your head, you think it's Europeans who were the Paleolithic people, the people who developed stone tools. No, this was in Africa. All these people who made the stone tools were Africans. They were able to use their brains to develop tools um, from stone to be able to carve an animal, and then from there they were able to build um, bows and arrows. The bow becomes the arrow with a stone tip is able to create a distance between them and the animal. They used to run after the animals, hold them down, and then kill it. But in the process, people got killed. We got to do better. Find the stone, put it on the tip of a branch, initially with a spear, throw it, distance between them, throw them. The animals run, bleed, and then they collapse and they get a meat. Nobody dies. They went even further with the bow and arrow, creates a longer distance. Everybody has that with the stone tip of the arrow, and they lived. From then, other tools came up. So our ancestors used their brains. Africans are people who have used their brains to develop a lot. Even boat building. They attribute boat building to who are these people in the north? These white people. But this is a boat that was found buried in a tomb. It was King Kefre's boat. This boat is older than 5,000 years. This is the early period of Kemetic history. King Kefre, he is the father of Asnefero. And then agriculture. They developed how to do agriculture and, of course, develop farming. Um, they did that. So many things. So, as African people, well, let's go on. The first universities, we've got people here learning, they're writing. Here, the same thing, they're writing papyrus. They learn how to write, read and write, and study. And even when it comes to empire building, Egypt was the first, or Kemet was the first world power under powerful kings. So Africa has contributed, we haven't just contributed, we developed civilization. And the evidence is there to show them. And they stole what they know from us. This shows us the real origin of humanity as coming out of Africa, of course, to populate the rest of the world. So the magazine is going to show us that, and we're going to focus, of course, now we have to focus on the adults because there are a lot of adults who don't know this information, and it's not our fault, we've not been taught. And so it focuses on the old people, and then the old people will focus on the young people. We need to start this. And Caress Unity, we applaud Dr. Mary Kara for what he's been doing over the years. And we learn that we have to do more than that. We have to put this forward into action. So if you don't know much about Caress, this is where you can come and learn African history, African spirituality. Now, this section here of the magazine will focus on news in different parts of the African world. We start with the United States, of course, the museum, that African museum that was um, revealed recently in Washington, D.C., and Dr. Jamieson. So as time goes on, we'll talk about different news items from different African countries that we can enjoy. Because they are all found in the magazine. Um, this section here, next section, will introduce us to our global family. Every issue we would like to focus on one particular country. This issue starts with Ethiopia. Some of the interesting facts: the population. I didn't know they're the second. They have the second largest population in Africa, 99 million people. And official language, the currency, the government, and president at this time. Um, interesting things about Ethiopia. It was founded in 980 BC. It was a country that was never conquered by the Europeans. But I believe Italy was there, and Italy was kicked out. Yeah. So anyway, these are some of the interesting things we'll learn. And then, of course, the people. Now, this one here shows the lowest point on the earth is this Lake Dalol, or Danakil Depression, 116 meters below sea level. If you are someone who likes nature and like to explore this kind of thing, you can go there and visit. This is where Dinkinesh came from, the oldest female they discovered 3 million years ago from Ethiopia. The king, uh, of course, everybody, well, a lot of people know about Abibi Bikila, won the Rome Olympics running barefoot. Um, some interesting things about Ethiopia and, of course, the people. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. The different family groups that we have in Ethiopia. Of course, these are athletes that Ethiopia is proud of. And when they win, we enjoy that. The different family groups that we find in Ethiopia, I did not know this until we did this magazine. Some have different shades of our complexion, very dark to very light. As we said, Africans come in all kinds of colors. So this is Ethiopia. And we'll present some of the dishes they enjoy there, and even a menu so that you can get the stuff, ingredients at the Ethiopian markets and prepare them at home. Now, one of the things we'll also touch on is every African country is going through some serious political issues. We will not cover that. We will expose all that, the reasons behind the tumult in these countries, and what we can do about it. What we can do about it is the next section is going to be developed even further. The Republic of Africa. It doesn't exist, but we believe it is the only solution for the problems we face in the global African family. One Africa. If we can get that and kick out all these exploiters, as including China, we can take back our continent and all the resources we have, we can use it to build a continent that we can call home. Right now, we can't call Africa home. Even if I was born in Ghana, but if I want to go to Ghana, I have to get a Ghanaian um, visa. They will not let me in. We have to stop that, put an end to that foolishness. All African people should be able to go to Africa with an African passport. And this is what this section is going to promote. We get rid of all the borders that the Europeans put in place, build one Africa, we can have one government. The next issues, a few issues, probably 3 or 4, maybe more, is going to do with the beast of white supremacy. This is why people think they are supreme and they have to dominate people of color. Will expose that, expose and all the horrible things they've done, and of course some of the heroes who have stood up against white supremacy. Some were successful, of course, some were killed and all that. Um, I want to go over this here. This is a brand new magazine, so we need a lot of help to help us as we go forward. So if you have any skills um, that you can use to contribute, designers, art designers, magazine editors, we need distributors. I'll go into more detail on that. But these are some of the places that we can distribute these magazines. I think there's a lot more in the next part that I will touch on. But these are some of the heroes that we can emulate. Kwame Nkrumah, he is the father of modern Africa. Without him, we will still be ruled by these Europeans. He was selfless. He was not afraid to die. 7 assassination attempts were made on his life by the CIA and the British to kill him, to stop his vision for one united Africa. He was killed, but he wasn't worried about death. Harriet Tubman, another one who had a bounty on her head, I believe £500, dollars or something. She wasn't afraid. She kept on the work of freeing fellow slaves. Dr. Martin Luther King wasn't afraid of dying. He stepped up to the plate and continued working until he was killed. Same thing with Marcus Garvey. He had a vision to emancipate and lift up the African people. Assassination attempts were made on him. He wasn't afraid. He went on. Um, and then for the sisters, yes, Yasantwa from Ghana. Well, it wasn't Ghana at the time. It was Gold Coast. The British came, took the king away, and the men were afraid to fight. Yasantwa said, "No, give women, let's get some guns and go and fight the British." And she did, organizing raids until she was eventually captured. But she wasn't killed. She was imprisoned. So, sisters, we can be bold and courageous, just like Yasantwa and Harriet Tubman. Of course, heroes like Malcolm X, Pan-African, strong Pan-African, and we know what happened to Nelson Mandela. Okay, so this is basically what the magazine is attempting to do. The success of it is going to depend on people helping out. We need places where we can sell the magazine. I believe some of these places were invited to come tonight, but they didn't show up for some reason. Um, we would like for this magazine to be in every home, every African home, so that we can use it to learn, to teach our children, and motivate us so that we can do better. We've done a lot of talking. It's time for action. If we don't, the continent will be stolen from us, and we'll continue the same game, complaining and sitting around and blaming everybody but ourselves. So this is, sorry, I want to show you some of the things we can do with the magazine. Okay. As most of you know, I used to be a Jehovah's Witness. Spent a lot of time distributing the Watchtower and Awake magazines. How many of you have seen the Watchtower and Awake magazine? Almost everybody. How many have read it? Okay. Okay, not many people read it. But it's the magazine that is most widely circulated in the world. Every month, they print and distribute over 140 million. And the Awake magazine, 70 million. So you're looking about 210 million magazines every month they're going out. And how do they do it? They have a membership of 7.3 million, and they spend 1.5 billion hours knocking on doors. You may see them on the streets. Well, what are they teaching? What do they promote? They promote Christianity. As a matter of fact, this is their goal here. The Watchtower honors Jehovah God, the ruler of the universe. It comforts people with the good news that God's heavenly kingdom will soon end all wickedness and transform the earth into a paradise. It promotes faith in Jesus, who died so that we might gain everlasting life and who is now ruling as King of God's kingdom. This magazine has been published since 1879, blah, blah, blah. All this is a lie. They've been promoting deception and lies for more than 100 years. And every month, the same lie is circulated and revised, and they print 140 million copies. Well, Sankofa is going to come up with truth. So our goal is to promote truth, not deception. And so we can be motivated as we read it, and we asking for anybody who can write some articles, young ones, write some articles, we'll publish them. So we see what is going on in the minds of the young people. And our friends, brothers and sisters with experience in academia, history, professions, we'll talk about all of that. Now, first of all, let's go about distribution or marketing. Who Where can we find African people? Well, first of all, your family members and friends, workmates. If you live in an apartment building, there's somebody next door to you or people in the complex. You can knock on their doors and reach them and try and get them to buy it. Most people who have seen the magazine like it. Um, and then the homes, you look at Jehovah's Witnesses, what, 7 point something million people, they go on knocking on doors and giving it to people. So we can do the same thing. And then you see them walking down the street. I used to do that too. Early in the morning, I wake up, bus stops, and all that, distributing Watchtower when I work for them. Community events and activities. The bus stops, we have metro. I have some numbers on how many people ride the bus and also how many people ride the trains. We're talking about millions of people. So the magazine can give them something to read, especially those on the long train rides, they can read it. Sports events, you got the Lakers, the Clippers, hockey, sparks, games. You can go and help distribute the magazine. Football, Rose Bowl, UCLA, and all of them. Community colleges, there are about 117 in California alone, and each one has a population of at least 5,000. So we have a lot of young people in the community colleges. And of course, we have the 7 UC system universities. UCLA alone has 35,000 students. All of them can enjoy it. It's not just African kids. Everybody can enjoy the magazine. Early school unified district, primarily the high school students, they can enjoy it. And then we have a captive audience in the uh, prisons and youth correctional authority, CRA, 150,000 of them. If we can get it in, they will read it. And I like this because how many of you know about Tookie Williams? Okay. He was executed not long ago. But he made a statement to Brother Rashidi Runoko that if he only knew who he was, he wouldn't have been in the gangs committing these crimes and killing people and ending up being dead. If he only knew who he was. A lot of the young people in these correction institutions don't know who they are, even the adults in prisons. So they come out, they do the same thing, and they go back. And 50% of the population or more about that are our children, our young people. So we can change that by helping them to really get to know who they are. Of course, you have hospitals, convalescent homes, medical offices, restaurants, and all these places, we can reach people. And I like the airports, international flights. Every day there are flights out. This is what I intend to do with the magazine this year. I'm hoping I'll be able to do that. There are a whole lot of cities that have big black populations, about 100,000 or more. I plan to get people to organize launches in these cities. Now, for those who are interested in business, the distribution channels are huge. You can set up your own sole proprietorship. just be a distributor. Um, just register your business with the city, maybe get a loan from the bank, and you can buy the magazines, we'll print them, send them to you. Um, we'll have to come up with a pricing and commission structure. For right now, I think if you sell one magazine, you get $2. Um, and if you have a storefront, you can sell a lot. We'll probably give you, $3 because you may have employees and storage facilities and stuff that you have to expenses that go with it. Um, we may change it to make it more, appealing to people to get involved. There are other places where we can distribute the magazine. For example, we have Pan African Film Festival coming up. It's estimated that about 100,000 people show up. I'll try and see how much we can print to get to into the hands of these people. And then during the course of the year, there are a whole lot of other African festivals or in black festivals going on. There's one here in Philadelphia. I saw this 500,000 people spread over 12 city blocks. All of them would like to get it. And then this one here in Detroit, 1 million people show up. It's African World Festival, Indiana Festival, 300,000 people. And this is something we can get involved in. So what we need are people who can sell advertising space in the magazine, car manufacturers, household goods, TV, what have you, travel agencies, airlines, computers, cell phones. If you have experience selling stuff or you know somebody who has experience, we would like to talk to them. And of course, the distributors. I got a call 3 days ago from a brother in Atlanta. He got the email and he called me and says he would like to be responsible for the Atlanta metro area because he's already dealing with some of these small stores and he would like to introduce the magazine to them and get them to sell it. We can do the same thing here. Um, of course, historians and people who can write stories, editors, event organizers. Um, Let me just tell you this. If you decide to be a distributor, say 117 community colleges with 5,000 population, if you get 10%, that's 500 for every community college. Um, say 10 of them, well, you got 500. And for each one, $2, that's what? 1,000 every month come into your pocket. And all you do is just check with them, and you don't even have to supply them. They put in the order, it will ship directly to them. So all you do is check to make sure when they're going to reorder. And if we get to doing it monthly, right now I think we're going to be doing it quarterly because of the work involved. Because just me and please give your hand to brother Captain. He helps with the design, and he worked hard day and night to make sure we got this thing done. He's done a lot of work. So it's just he and I. The other brothers who have decided to join us. And so we hope more people will join us to make this a success. This is, I was talking to Brother uh, Eve, and he kept saying, this is very much needed, very much needed. We need a tool to help educate us. One brother, he's a teacher in Palmdale, so he looked at it and he kept saying, this information you will not find this information in any textbook. So we need to make this thing successful so we can teach ourselves and our children and the generations coming up. By the way, it's being translated in Portuguese, as I mentioned, for Brazil. Brother in San Jose is also doing it in French, and we would like to do it in what is it? The language over here. What is it? Spanish. We like to do it in Spanish, so we have the 4 major languages covered for distribution here, Europe, and then of course Africa too. So this is the Sankofa magazine. We hope you join us. um, especially in the business part of it, in the distribution of it, because it can be a full-time job for you. There's money to be made. We would like to control it. This is not something we're going to have outside investors coming in and dictating what you can write and what you can't. This is going to be our magazine for education. Of course, the magazine, the size of it is going to grow. I think down the line we'll probably separate it into two magazines. One for the historical and the cultural education and all of that, and then the other one will promote the political message to organize and take back our continent. Um, so this is the Sankofa magazine. How many would like to read it? Okay, everybody would like to read it. How many would like to distribute it? It's not difficult. The magazine sells itself. All you do is hand it to somebody and let them thumb through it, and they'll get it. So, if you are interested, let's talk about it, and we'll find a way to incentivize it so that you can make some money. The market is huge. The market is huge. It's not just African people. White people can benefit. Uh, we've all been victims of the deception by white supremacy. And the young people are not interested in promoting white supremacy. You see the demonstrations going on against Trump, and the young people are walking away from that. And this will help them. This will also be appreciated. So, anyway, thank you for coming. Do you have any questions? Yes. My what? Oh, art size. Okay, we have to work on that. We have to work on that. Okay. Okay, appreciate that. Okay, yeah, somebody called 3 days ago about a Ghanaian. He represents some Ghanaian businesses and they will also want to do art. He asked me the same thing. And we haven't determined the amounts and the size and all of that, but we'll do that. We'll do that very soon. We need to do that. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, one. Sure. That's fine. That's fine. They have to learn what their faith is. And the question is whether they will accept that faith after they really learn what it is. That's right. So it's okay. Okay. I don't know. But whose fault is it, sister? The church. It's not teaching. You listen to this guy on 700 Club. What's his name? Uh, it's a big time preacher. Um, uh, no, no, Falwell is dead. 700. Hmm? Pat Robinson. Pat Robinson, and I have it in somewhere, one of the magazines or the books. He made the statement that the churches should stop talking about God creating the universe in 6 days because young people don't buy it. Young people don't believe that any God can create this huge universe from one end to the other is about 37 billion light years in one day. The kids don't believe that. And so he says that they should stop teaching that. But if you stop teaching that, that's what the Bible says. So what are you going to teach them? So this is the dilemma the church faces. Uh, yeah, I believe people are ready for the truth. Honestly, a lot of people are ready, but they just don't know where to find it. So yeah, you'll be surprised. You know what people they may take it and not talk to you about how they feel, but privately they probably agree with what the magazine is saying. So yeah, I wish you the best, success. Yes, be an evangelical for the magazine too. Okay, anybody else? All right. I think this is it then. Thank you for coming. Okay, and we are selling the magazine, so we appreciate it if you take one with you, $20. And if you know somebody that you can buy one for them, by all means do that. If not, and then if you buy it for them, make sure you get the money back from them. Don't give it to them for free. Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, Um, what information? Yeah, you can order them. Just let me know how many you want. We have a distributor a printer who can print any number you want anytime. So if you need 100, just let me know. I'll order 100 that you can handle. You finish distributing them, you want more, we can do that. And oh yes, you know, because we haven't gotten to the point of the subscription, but to probably less than the $20 per issue, for sure. Yeah, okay, we'll do that. Um, as the volume or the size grows, of course, it's going to be a little bit more, expensive to print. Well, but what we plan to do is print them in Brazil. It will be cheaper over there. Print them and ship them here, so we don't have to increase the price of the magazine. We would like to have it stay the same, $20. And then if we can get more people getting ads, sell ads space, that will also take care of the expenses. So we don't have to increase the price of it. Okay. Yes. Yes. I think Sister Tete Sherry can do credit cards, and yeah, she'll let me have it. Okay. Any more questions? All right. Then thank you for coming again. Thank you.